Okay. Sham, is everybody in?
Yes, we can. We are good to go.
Okay, great. So, good afternoon, everybody. We are all set to begin our today's webinar. A very warm welcome to all the participants present here today. I'll just quickly give you a brief on the topic. So, explore the transformative impact of AI in our daily lives with a session today on AI in humans. From healthcare diagnostics to business automation, discover how artificial intelligence is reshaping the way we live and work. Delve into the ethical consideration and societal implications and gain insights into the future of AI human collaboration. Join us for this thought provoking discussion on the integration of AI technologies into the fabric of human existence. To know more about HRAI and its events, I would request all the participants to visit the link and the details posted in the chat window. Requesting all the participants to kindly follow the webinar guidelines mentioned in the chat window. It would be great to have all the participants' feedback. We'll be running a short poll before the Q&A session begins, and I would request all the participants to kindly give their feedback on the session. So I now take the privilege to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Dr. Anjana Vinod. She is the founder of Impact Enhancer. Dr. Anjana, a seasoned expert in L&D with 3 decades of diverse industry experience, hold degrees from Mumbai University and IIM Bangalore. Specializing in theater and training, she is a TEDx speaker, best-selling author, and a cancer coach. Certified in POSH and emotional intelligence, her accolades includes the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Professional Excellence Award and Mrs. India International Classic 2023. Recently featured in Eves Against Odds, she spoke at the Indian Army Jashne Azadi event on the well-being for women officers in Hyderabad. Without wasting much time, I now hand over the platform to Dr. Anjana. Over to you, Dr. Anjana.
Thank you so much, and a warm welcome to everyone who's come here and given your time for this. I'm not going to take much of your time, and I'm going to quickly deep dive into the AI in humans. So, what is it all about? I mean, we all talk about artificial intelligence, and is it really something which is really great? Let's look into deep diving into that and understanding what is this AI that we are talking about. So, what is AI? AI simply means artificial intelligence. Now, does that mean that there is an intelligence outside of a human brain that functions differently? My God, are we saying that we are going to create humans outside and we don't need to get married to get humans? Wow, what a feeling. But yes, unfortunately, that's not the truth. Of course, H2O means water. If you mix hydrogen and oxygen, you get water. Does that mean that we can have babies without having sperms? Trust me, with the way AI is moving, probably we'll learn the hack of creating sperms and we won't even need humans for that. But however, AI is all about machine learning. It's about learning using data that is gathered by humans. Please don't miss that. Neutral networks. It's about computer systems. It's about how we design these machines and they function and make our life easy. It's about the neutral language. It's about the language that we use in terms of we use Hindi, Marathi, English, Sindhi, Punjabi, and all these languages. Machines have their own language. We are talking about using that language and processing that language. Apart from that, AI also simply means that are we able to go ahead and use robotics? We have robotic arms, robotic legs. People work different ways in robotics. Is there a way of doing that? Now, there are 3 different types of AI, if I had to talk about. The first one is excessive artificial intelligence. What does this really mean? It means that everything that is assisting humans in serving information. Your Google Maps an ideal example of this. Alexa's ideal example of this, where it guides us, tells us what to do. Second thing is our automated artificial intelligence, where we are talking about, your accounting software, your tallies and everything. Enter a data in a particular fashion. That's how it works. And that's what automated artificial intelligence is. The third most important part of intelligence is autonomous artificial intelligence. Your self-driving cars, they are deciding for us, knows the proximity of another vehicle, decides on it. If it is a roadblock, stops there. All these things are autonomous. There are 3 different types of artificial intelligence. Now, actually, everything is built by the input that humans give, isn't it? So then in that case, what is human intelligence? if artificial intelligence is doing everything, is there something called human intelligence? Well, yes. Human intelligence, in simple words, if I had to put it across, it's nothing else but it's the capacity for our brain to cognitively work on different activities. It talks about emotions. It talks about the feelings. It talks about how do we conduct ourselves? What do we do in ourselves? How do we work with ourselves? What is our capacity to identify, oh, this is the problem. This is what is a perceived problem. This is what, as humans, we have created as problems. However, machines will just go A plus B plus C is equal to X. For humans, if I had to tell you 2200, how would you write it? It could be 2200. It could be 2020. It could be anything, right? Now, that's what humans do. Think beyond what machines can think, or you enable machines to think. Like AI is of different types, even human intelligence is of different types. How does it practically work? What does it do? Number one, it is the word smart, the linguistic language that we use. You tell machine A for apple, machine will stick for A for apple, but humans can have apple A, apple B, apple C, apple D, apple E, apple F, apple F, multiple apples, correct? The way we anticipate, the way we look at words, the way we communicate, same thing, sent different ways, said in different ways, set in different languages could have linguistic implications of the same, correct? That is what humans can do, which machines can't unless you update them with that. Number two, it is about logical reasoning. Machines will only reason how much you tell them to reason, but humans go beyond that. The reasoning that a human can do is much more complex and advanced than what machines can do. Number three is about the kinesthetic learning. It's all about the body smart. How do I move my hands? What gestures do I do? When I do this, very honestly, everybody has a different understanding. Do we agree with that? Don't we? If I do this, for somebody, it could mean a thumbs up. For somebody, it could mean, okay, let's go. For somebody, it could mean, got it. For somebody, it could mean, Anjana, okay, you're there. I know. See, there are so many meanings to the same word, but a machine would read it only to the limitation that we show it to them. The next important thing is all about nature smart. How do we look at nature? What do we understand from nature? What nature teaches us when it gives us a signal is not what machines can do. Making sure that we are sound smart, we understand the terminology of sound. And only when we feed that in AI does the AI function in itself. It's also about living life in the most practical manner we can. Understanding what mindfulness really means, how does it work, and making sure we know when we communicate with humans, there is some kind of serenity that we communicate with them. Also, the interpersonal relationship that we have, the self-smart way of looking at things, understanding human psychology and working with them. And last but not the least is the visual picture smart. What do we see and what do we learn? There's a big irony in our life. And all this irony is something which is self-built. Let's understand the reality in today's AI world that we talk about, super advanced and the best world that we talk about. It will bring tears to your eyes when you read this and when you see this from the actual intellect part of it. We have big houses, but unfortunately, very small families. We have costly, advanced, high-tech watches, but no time. We have virtual friends, probably the entire globe in our hand. How many of them are really real? We have machines which can probably diagnose, anticipate the life of a human, advanced machine, advanced medicine to a different level. But what about our health? We have very poor health. Why? Because we're banking on them. We have high income, but probably least peace of mind. We need to maintain that standards of living, don't we? We have more knowledge. Of course, we have knowledge at the fingertips. You tell me and here it comes in front of me. But what about wisdom? Where do we apply that knowledge? How much do we have knowledge and courage about that? We don't. How many of us have high IQ? But do we really have the EQ which is needed? We also have so many humans on planet Earth. But what about humanity? How many of us see that humanity in people? In the AI world, we need to have that serenity within ourselves. Now, how do we get that really? We are talking about maintaining your pH balance using SIP. Ah, SIP. Anjana, you're talking investments. I am not. What I'm talking about is maintaining and balancing your peace and happiness using self-improvement plan. How do you want to improve yourself? What do you need to do different? How can you look at yourself from a different vertical altogether? Now, we all are driven by passion, but you know what? One needs to learn to fly before we go ahead and do anything. Yes, you need to learn to fly. Anjana, are you serious? You're talking about AI, you're talking so much about being human, and then you're telling fly? Well, yes, I am. Fly simply means, as humans, we first need to love ourselves. If you are able to love yourself, if you're able to take care of yourself, everything else tends to fall in place the way we want it. Now, having said that, how does one be always happy in life? Today, I'm going to go ahead and talk about a very interesting concept, which is the circle of influence and circle of concern. Everything that's in our control is your circle of control, which is the innermost circle. If we operate from this circle, every situation that we are facing, instead of saying what if and creating the problem statement, can we move ahead and use a different language and say, even if, and become solution focused? What if this happened? Okay, even if this happens, what am I going to do? Suddenly I find ways out. I know what is in my control. I know what I can work with. Believe me, machines can't. Machines only understand to the extent we make them understand. Okay, if things are not in my control, can I operate in any other manner? Of course. What is in my influence? How can I work with people? How can I work with things? How can I get my work done? What are the different methodologies, technologies that I can use? How can I leverage certain relationships to influence people? If it's in my hand, I will do it. If not, can I use other person to get it done? Well, I tried and it didn't work. And boom, that's when we slip into the dangerous circle of concern. We operate from the circle of concern, and let's accept it. 90% of us do that. We operate from the circle of concern and we say, this is not in my control, but it is affecting me, because we choose to let it affect me. You know, recently I was seeing one of these reels that were there on YouTube, and one of the reels said there was this lady being interviewed in an entire forum filled with her entire family sitting there, all men on one side, all women on one side. These were all married women. And this lady was chosen, and Steve asked her a very simple question: does your husband keep you happy? And what do you think? What kind of a question is that? She looked at him and she said, no, he doesn't. And that poor husband's face completely fell, because he did everything to make that lady happy. I mean, listened to her, offered her everything, shopped for her, got her an excellent, environment to live in. And the husband was very upset. And Steve looked at the husband and said, oh, my boy, your wife is not happy with you. And he looked at Steve and he said, oh, Steve, I really wonder why, because I don't think I've ever refused her anything. And Steve looked at her and was like, lady, what are you looking at? You're telling me your husband doesn't keep you happy? She said, yeah, in fact, nobody on this world, nobody in this entire universe or in this earth can keep me happy. Must be very demanding, lady. No, it's because I decide who I want to be with and how happiness is defined to me. Think about it. How easily do we give our keys of happiness to anybody else? And is it fair? Is it fair? We are operating from concern. Anything that's not in your control, not in your influence, if you keep thinking about it, is it going to serve you? But Anjana, it's easy said than done, no? You know, it is obvious. If I have son, if I have a daughter, if I have a mother, if I have a father, if I have this one, it's normal to have expectations, isn't it? Of course, it's very normal. But it's your hand whether you want to live with that expectation or you want to drop that expectation. So the question is there a powerful way of doing it? Today, I'm going to ring a bell, sow a seed of thought in your mind. What we are talking about is very simple. 6 very simple, powerful tips for you to live a powerful life. Make sure that before you talk, just think. And make sure that before you talk, you listen. Listen very carefully to what people are saying. Listen to understand them. Unfortunately, the definition of listening is waiting for my turn to talk. Okay, you were talking, I kept quiet, now you listen. Don't we all say that? I didn't say anything when you were talking. Now you listen to when I'm talking, don't interfere. Which means you were not really listening to the person. You were waiting for your turn to talk. That's not listening. Making sure that before we act, we think a bit. What are going to be the consequences of the way I behave? If I'm going to overthink, if I'm going to overdo certain things, what is going to happen to my health? And if something happens to me, who's going to take care of me? Am I going to be a burden on somebody else? Or do I choose to take care of myself? Before you go ahead and judge people, try and understand their perspective. Is it easy? Because you don't know. Each one is fighting their own battle. You know, the other day we were in a small lane and there was a car in front of us. And this gentleman who was driving my car kept honking, "Sir, road is free ahead, move." Unfortunately, that lane did not have place for us to overtake. And within no time, we got that place and he overtook. And the moment he was overtaking, he saw it was an 80-year-old man. And with a small board written, "I'm taking my wife for dialysis to the hospital. Sorry about the speed and troubling you." He felt ashamed. He didn't know what to say. But you know what? The reality of life is that nobody is carrying banners. "I'm alone. I'm a divorcee. I'm physically abused. I've gone through sexual harassment. My husband beats me up." Nobody is carrying that. The least we can do is understand people. Give the benefit of doubt. How does it matter? Just give it. We are all humans, not machines. Making sure that before we take things from people, do we have the courage to give? Can we start giving love, affection to people, understandings to people? Can we go ahead and instead of shouting, just take a deep breath and see that, you know what, we can manage our anger much better. It's just a matter of making sure our heartbeat, our breathing is completely normalized for us to think properly. And before you quit, try one last time. For all you know, that's where your success lies. Having said that, we need to learn to protect our womb. Well, this is not only for ladies, believe me, it's for every soul who's logged into this call. And when we talk about womb, what are we talking about? It's only about wellness of our mind and body. Now, how do we take care of the wellness of the mind and body? Is there a particular way of doing it? The simple principle is using the ACR model. What is that ACR principle? A stands for accepting the unchangeable. What is it that I don't have control to? What is it that I can't change? What is it that I feel that this is impossible to change? Can I accept it the way it is? Oh, or can I change the changeable? What is it that is in my control? How can I change things? What can I do if I can do it different? Oh, it is the unchangeable, Anjana. What if I can't change it? Then what do I do? Then remove yourself from the unacceptable. We always have a choice. It's just that we don't want to exercise that choice because we don't want to take the accountability of doing that. What will they say? What will he say? What will she say? Unfortunately, we cover ourselves with kind of fears that don't even exist, and we create those fears. How often have we challenged ourselves to say, "Hey, you know what? Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens." Probably not, because we live in a preconceived fear which doesn't even exist in today's world. Is there a way to protect the womb? Well, yes. Number one, if you are somebody who is an overthinker and you really want to stop overthinking, then go ahead and start journaling. You know what? I am a ICF certified coach, and one of my coaches one day came and like, "Anjana, you don't know what I'm going through in life. there are so many problems in my life. I can't talk about it. And I was like, oh, fantastic. Let's do one thing. Why don't you write down all your problems and then we'll talk about it? Believe me, after writing 15 lines, she didn't know what to write more. And then when she started writing, she actually told me, Anjana, I don't think this 100 pages is going to be sufficient. The kind of problems I have in my life, I can't tell you. 15 lines. And she couldn't think of problems. So start journaling. It will give you a ground reality. To think clearly, you need to have your mind in place. Now, for your mind to be in place, we need to have a very clear flow of thought. And that is only possible when you're completely relaxed and your mind is completely in your control, which means meditate. Now, the myth about meditation that generally people have is, Anjana, no thought should come into my mind. But I'm sure when you sit like that, even the neighbor's thought come into your mind, don't they? So is there a way of meditation? Well, a human brain is not designed to be blank. A human brain is designed to think. The question is, how do I meditate in that case then? Very simple. Channelize that thought process. Maybe count how many times you breathe. Maybe close your eyes and try and listen to every single slightest sound that you can hear. Place a candle in front of you, focus on the flame and see what all can you see and create images in your brain from that flame. Well, focusing on one thing is meditation. If you want to improve your mood, you know what? I generally feel very low on energy. I feel very upset. I get frustrated very easily when things don't go my way. Just go exercise. And exercise doesn't really mean go for a long walk, join a gym. No, a simple exercise of sitting down or just walking around in your house, playing some nice peppy music, shaking a leg, anything that gives movement to your body is exercising. Dress up really well, another quick and easy way of making and uplifting your mood. If you want to really expand that knowledge that you have and implement that into wisdom, start reading. It's not necessary you need to read a book. It could be any blog. It could be anything that enhances your thinking capacity. How different can you think, articulate? Look at a movie and say, hey, if I had to change the ending of this movie, how would I change it? Well, that's thinking too. And how can you go ahead and do that? The next is, if you have self-doubt, it's only because you don't trust yourself completely. Start talking positively to yourself. What do you tell yourself? The stories that you tell yourself is something that needs to change. When we talk about self-doubt, I'll tell you a very simple reason why even self-doubt starts and from where it starts. Every morning, most of us or many of us would be keeping an alarm, correct? I will get up at 5 in the morning. And then this lovely clock of ours has a magical button in it. Snooze. And we all start using that, right? 5 minutes, I'll get up. 5 minutes, I'll get up. Do you know the signal that you're giving your brain? If you can't keep up to your own word, what would you keep up to somebody else's word? And that's where the self-doubt starts. If you want to get up at 5:15, if that's your cutoff, keep an alarm for 5:15, shut it and get up and see the difference it makes in your confidence level. When you want to understand something better, I don't have much clarity, I've just read it somewhere. Start explaining it to somebody else and see the difference. When somebody else learns from you, you would be able to articulate it much better, work around with much better, and enhance that knowledge completely in a different dimension altogether. Simple techniques, it'll help you protect your womb, which is wellness of your mind and body. While we talk about this, it's a simple framework we all can adapt. I recently learned about this framework, which is about pause and observe your emotions, thoughts, and the stories we tell ourselves. The difficult part is taking that pause, being comfortable with silence. You ask somebody a question, the person is introspecting on that question. And there you go, dub, 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 dub. You reframe that question, you keep asking that question. Take a moment, give that person time to think. It's okay. The person can think and the person can come back. Learn to be comfortable with silence. observe your emotions. What are you going through? How well do you observe yourself? How did I feel at this point of time? And why did I feel hurt? What was I letting go of? I don't agree to what you're saying. It's my right versus your right. If you think what you're doing is right and I think what I am doing is right, clearly means that you are not wrong and I'm not wrong, which means we are challenging your right to my right. The least we can do is understand your perspective. So what made you think this way? How do you think you're thinking this way? What is there in your mind? Just have a perspective from the other person. Observe what that other person is trying to tell you and see the difference. When we talk about emotions, it's all about how and what we are going through. Why are we facing what we are facing? Why are we thinking what we are thinking? And what do we do with that thought process? Remember, never control your emotions, because controlling clearly means making sure you are getting tighter in a compartment. Instead, try managing it. Releasing that energy in some form or the other, connecting with people and talking about it will not let you be really frustrated. It'll help you give that opportunity to expand. Expand your thoughts. What are you thinking? Why are you thinking? And if you had to think any differently, what would it be? Stories that we tell ourselves. Creating stories from not my experience, but somebody else's experience, because I heard someone say this, I'm sure it is happening. How often do we tell ourselves stories that don't exist? And do we even go back to check the authenticity of these stories? Because if we don't, it's time that we probably want to go ahead and do that. Making sure that if you really want to live a satisfactory life, try having these 3 factories installed in your body. Ice factory in the brain, making sure that you are completely cooled down, making sure you take deep breath, you have complete control of everything that you aspire to do. Instead of blowing out of proportion, just ask yourself, if somebody is not agreeing with me, what is that person seeing which I am not? Why is he not agreeing with me? What is his perspective? Am I even listening with an intent of understanding, or am I listening only with an intent of contradicting? Second one, making sure you have a sugar factory in your tongue. Be polite, be courteous, be respectful. Making sure that we don't use any language that might hurt the other person. And last but not the least, have a love factory in your heart. Be empathetic to people. Give them that benefit of doubt. You really don't know what they are going through. The least we can do is understand their perspective. Now, while we are talking about all these things, it is also very important that we apply the TDS. Yes, not only to our income, but also to our life. Think, discuss, and share. Think about different perspectives. Discuss with your friends, discuss with your colleagues, discuss with whoever you think you have a sounding board to, and share your feelings about hurt. Show your vulnerability to people. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It is your sign of showing that, yes, you know what? I am human too. Otherwise, I would have been a AI operated machine. The fact that I'm willing to share, the fact that I'm willing to understand, the fact that I'm willing to let go of things only shows us that, yes, I'm in control of not only my income, but also the TDS that life is showing me. To become a star in life, few things are really important. Number one is listening actively, listening to the universe's message that they are sending us with. 31 of us on this call right now, there has to be a reason why you're here. And you never know what message the universe wants to give you. Just listen with a very open perspective, not only with the perspective that I want to gain this at this point of time. This is what I need. This is how it works. This is what is important for me. Making sure that you take charge. Take charge of things that you are in control of. Be it your health, be it your life, be it your happiness, be it the way you want to consider yourself when you see your reflection in front of the mirror. Making sure that every aspect is your charge. Don't be your own limitation. Ask yourself, how often have I made limiting belief statements? Oh, I can't do this. That's not my cup of tea. It's so not me. Seriously? And if you had to sit back and see if that's the only alternative, you will figure a way out, right? So start taking charge of things that you think you can, making sure that we always keep your promise. Promise not only to what the universe you're giving it to, but more importantly, promise to yourself. What are you committing yourself to? And how often are you living up to your own commitment? The promise that you give yourself, oh, no matter what, I will do this. And then you just don't land up doing it. And then we talk about self-doubt. Isn't it obvious to have a self-doubt in that case? And the last is R, which is raising your bar. Challenge yourself every single time you want to challenge yourself. Ask yourself a very simple question. What is it that I bring to the table? And why is it that I want to limit myself to this? Why can't I do something? What is that fear that I'm living with? Am I trying to say I'm not capable enough of doing it? Or do I really don't know what to do it or how to do it? Today, I'm going to talk about a prayer that I want to leave all of us with. A very simple. I'm asking God to grant us serenity to accept things that I can't change, making sure that He gives me that serenity. He gives me the courage to change the things that I can, and also a wisdom to know the difference. This is what is changeable. This is what is right to change, is what I'm going to look at it from a holistic perspective. We are living in the world of AI, and AI today is all about telling us how you can limit yourself. A very simple example that I would want to share with all of y'all is a simple thing. How often does it happen with each one of us? You know, there's a beautiful saying which says that when the telephones were wired, humans were free. When the televisions were huge, humans were flat. But what do we have today? Wireless phones, which are binding people. You don't have time for each other. Yesterday, I was at the airport and there was this couple who were busy talking, had two kids, and both the kids had one mobile, busy surfing on the mobile. Are we tying our kids right from that age? The least we can do is run about with them. Correct. Yesterday at the airport, there was this lady who was, busy talking on the phone, and she had tied something in her hand. And I was wondering what she had tied and where the other chain was. She had tied the other thing to her kid, and the kid was busy running around playing, and she kept pulling him back, kept pulling him back. How different is a pet and a kid? Is our AI so advanced that it stops us from being humans? Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, humanity is something that we all have. The question is, are we even living as humans? How many hours in a day do you choose not to touch your phone? How many hours in a day do we choose to live away from technology? Unfortunately or fortunately, we don't. We always look out for ways and means for sticking to this technology. I'm going to end today's session very quickly with a very interesting story. This is a story about a king, and he was very fond of birds. So one of his best friends left him a pair of falcons. Now, I don't know how many of you all are aware of it. Falcons are the most powerful birds in the universe because they are known for the acrobatics they do. 3 seconds he can copy another bird, and 30 seconds he can master that acrobatic act. The king was very happy. He gave it to the best bird trainer he had, and he said, here, you know what? I want you to train this pair of pure breed falcons and make them do something that no other falcon can ever do. Bird trainer, equally happy, picked up both those birds, went and kept them in the balcony, in the garden, in the branch of a tree in the garden, and he was very happy. Started training. 20 days later, he had to definitely go and tell, the king that how the birds are performing. So he went to the king and he said, King, you know what? One of the birds is doing brilliantly well, but the other bird hasn't left the branch ever since I placed him there. I tried to poke him. I did everything possible, but the bird wouldn't move and I don't know what to do. So the king looked at him and he said, you know what? Do you think any reason in particular? He's like, I think he has a damaged wing. The best of the doctors were called. Wings was checked. Nothing happened. He made an announcement and he said, "Oh my God, I don't know what is wrong with my bird. Is there anybody who can cure him?" And suddenly one of the persons came and he said, "You know what, King? I know. Nudger, evil eye on your bird. People are jealous that you have such a beautiful bird. Nudger. No problem. Let's do Havan, Yagya, everything possible." But the bird still wouldn't fly. Finance minister came. "Sir, money can do anything." So the king was confused. He said, "Give money to the bird and tell him fly." "No, no, 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 no. Not like that. Announce, prize. People will make the bird fly." I said, "Okay. 25,000 gold coins to anyone who can make this bird fly." People came, tried, tested, nothing happened. After around 8 long months, one very simple looking man came and he said, "Sir, I will make the bird fly." He said, "But I have a condition." He said, "What's your condition?" He said, "Not 25,000. You have to give me 50,000 gold coins. Only then will I make the bird fly." He said, "Okay, done. 50,000 gold coins. But young man, if you don't make the bird fly, you will be my slave for the rest of your life. Remember that." He said, "Sure, done. Done, sir. No problem. But I also need whatever you need, you will be given." So he says, "Thank you." And he's about to go when the king calls him back. "Excuse me. Hello. By when will you make the bird fly?" "Your Highness, tomorrow evening, 4 o'clock. "What? Tomorrow evening, 4 o'clock. "You sure?" "Yeah. 8 months the bird hasn't flown." "Yeah, yeah, don't worry, king." Next day evening, 4 o'clock, the castle is buzzing with people to see what magic he's going to do. This fellow goes below the branch, has a conversation with the bird and does something, and the bird starts flying. Within 3 seconds, he sees the other bird, and within 30 seconds, there is a mesmerizing sky happening outside. Deep diving, upside diving, rocket shooting, all possible acrobatics displayed. King is super happy, gives him 50,000 gold coins, and he says, "Here, 50,000 gold coins. Take 25,000 more. Tell me how you did it." He said, "Sir, I didn't do anything. The bird already had wings. I just cut the branch." Ladies and gentlemen, we need to get out of our comfort zone to be the best version of ourselves. And that is only possible when we choose to challenge ourselves. And it's only humans who can challenge, not machines. We created the machines. Don't become slaves to that machine. Make sure that you have your time off. We are living in the world of AI. Of course, I'm not saying AI is bad. I'm only trying to say don't become slaves of technology, because human intelligence is always going to supersede the AI world we live in. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Anjana, for bringing in such lovely perspectives. I'm sure our people who are watching today have greatly benefited from it. So thank you so much for taking us through this wonderful deck of yours. Now we'll move to the Q&A session, but before we do that, we'll be initiating a poll. So I would request all the participants to kindly share their feedback. And while we do so, I would also request the participants to post their questions in the chat window. Once again, I would like to thank our participants for joining in today. And we have received a lot of inquiries about the e-certificates offered by HREI as well. So you can claim your certificate by sharing your details, which is name and the session that you have attended on an email, and we will provide you with the certificate. So, Dr. Anjana, I'll quickly pull up some questions that we had received at the time of registration.
Sure.
So question number 1 is how to break a negative pattern for a good mental health.
Super. Thank you so much. So I have a golden rule. A human brain always thinks negative because that's how we are designed. Let's accept it. The first thought that comes to our mind is a negative thought. The simplest way to break this chain is challenge every negative thought with 2 counter positive thoughts. If your brain says, "Oh, I can't get through this person, I hope nothing has happened to him," probably counter it with 2 positive thoughts. Maybe battery is not there, or maybe he has lost the phone. Every time a negative thought comes to you, what could be the counter to positive thoughts? "Oh, what if he has met with an accident?" Maybe somebody else with an accident has met with an accident. What if he's helping that person? What if he has been knocked down by a car? What if somebody's car got knocked somebody down and he's helping that person? Start challenging every negative with two positive counter arguments. And then your brain gets used to thinking this. Let me give you a very simple thing. When you drink tea or coffee, when the cup has little residue left, go bring it below the tap. What overflows is what the content is inside, correct? But that's not permanent. It only overflows till the time the residue is there. After that, it is fresh water. But you have to continuously, please keep filling that cup with fresh water for the fresh water to come out. And that's what we all need to do. Trigger the positive thought process, counter it with every negative thought with two positive thoughts. So our brain understands negative is not permanent, positive can also be possible.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. I have another question, which is, can you share examples of effective self-affirmation techniques to build confidence and counterattack self-doubt?
Correct. Now, whenever we have self-doubt, the self-doubt is purely coming because we don't have visions of success. So whenever you doubt yourself, challenge yourself with evidence. What is that evidence do you have for that self-doubt? Have you ever failed? And in case you have evidence for failure, ask yourself, when did you ever challenge yourself and you did something that you never thought you could do? Which means you also have evidence for success. Self-doubt will be countered when you challenge yourself with evidence of success. Step number 1. Step number 2, whenever you write affirmations, most of us just write it because kisi ne bola tha, write like this 10 times and you will become very positive. Yes, write those 10 times, but also visualize those 10 times. If I become this, what would I look like? What is this version 1.2, 2.0 of me looking like? What color outfit am I wearing? What is my hairstyle at that point of time? Have I done my eyebrows? Is my frame the same? What shade of lipstick am I wearing when this affirmation comes to reality? Visualization is the most powerful way of getting affirmation to reality.
Sure, sure. So we have one question in the chat window, Dr. Anjana, which is, what steps can individuals take to maintain a positive relationship with technology and AI while prioritizing the mental health in an increasingly digital world?
Thank you. Thank you, Tushar, for that question. And I think it's a very brilliant question because today AI has overpowered us. A simple way is having a very systematic, patterned, self-controlled digital detox. When you are working in a world of AI, it is also very important to detox ourselves. Instead of keeping alarms in your mobile phone, buy a small alarm clock. It just costs you 50 rupees, 100 rupees, 200 rupees with Amazon sale and everything. Buy a digital clock, which is basically an alarm clock, not your mobile phone. Because sometimes when we pick up our mobile phone to switch off the alarm clock, the path to switching off the alarm clock is via email, via WhatsApp, via Instagram, and then we reach there. So invariably, we get dissected, correct? So have a planned digital detox every day. When you're working on something, probably have a timeline, which very clearly says 25 minutes, I will dedicatedly work. I will not even see where my mobile is kept, and then go ahead and work around with something else. Start returning the calls whenever it is possible. Put your WhatsApp status, which says that in a urgent meeting, in a urgent thing, can talk to you only after 20 minutes. Set a default message on your WhatsApp saying that available between so-and-so time to so-and-so time for calls. That could be another way of doing it. Unless it is urgent, do not do a WhatsApp call or whatever mechanisms you like. That's number 2. Number 3, always keep a paper and a pen next to your bed. The human brain tends to think too much, and we use technology because we don't want to forget certain things. But when you want to remember certain things, just write down on a piece of paper. The brain knows it is parked at a particular place and you can use that. You will not forget. And because you know you will not forget, you will get more peaceful sleep in the night. Radiations are something that are very strong, so please make sure your mobile phones are kept in a place which is not easily accessible to you. when you are sleeping in the night. So these could be few simple technological tips that you can use to detox yourself and work with technology along with you.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. I'll just pick up one last question, Dr. Anjana, which is what role does self-compassion play in overcoming self-doubt, and how can an individual develop this trait?
Correct. Self-compassion and self-doubt, if you look at both these words, self-doubt is where I am not sure about my own capabilities. Self-compassion is nothing else but self-pity that we create for ourselves. We want to make ourselves feel vulnerable to the world. And at the same point of time, being vulnerable, we show self-doubt, saying that, see how vulnerable I am. Mujhe to pata hi tha. People can walk over me. People can do this to me. And that's what we are talking about. So number one is, whenever in self-doubt, like I mentioned earlier, ask for evidence. Ask for evidence. And when we talk about self-compassion, how can I work with it? What can I do to make sure that self-compassion is serving me in the right manner? What is very important is, a simple technique where I say that self-compassion is all about moving, it involves acting the ways towards ourselves, which are really, being strong in difficult times, if I have to say that. Being strong in difficult times. And the best and the simplest way to work with self-compassion is the CIC model that I mentioned. What's in my control? What all can I do? Okay, I can't do this. Can I speak to somebody and get that person to do it for me? Oh, I can't even do that. Start operating from concern, as that's where self-compassion completely goes to an end. Because, you're blaming the universe for something that is not even in your control. And you're, what do you call it? Getting your health completely down because of this. So a simple way is, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you worth? Whatever you do, you're doing it for you. And if you are in the best of your health, you can serve the universe the way you want. I always say this, and in fact, in my first TED Talk, that's a question I started off with, where I ask people, what is or who is the most important person in your life? And if you can identify yourself at the top of the list, both these, self-compassion and self-doubt, will completely get cleared. Because it's not about what the universe thinks about you. It's what about you think about the universe. There's a very interesting story. One day in the office, the boss announces, there's this WhatsApp group, the message comes, the most important person in your life, or the person who limited you the most in your life in the official space, passed away. Everybody thought about the boss, poor thing, he has kids, he has this. And for the last rites, before the last rites, the coffin is kept in the office. You all can come and pay your last rites to the person. When everybody came there, slow and steadily, each one took a turn to go to the coffin, and the coffin had a mirror. Because nobody else can stop you except yourself. And nobody else can control you except yourself. So you are the pillar of strength. You decide your happiness path. You decide everything. Don't blame the world saying, I didn't have a choice. You always had a choice. What you choose is something you want to take an accountability for. And by blaming the world, you are only looking for excuses. That's from my end, Neha.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Anjana. That was indeed a thought-provoking addressing to the questions. Thank you so much for that. It has been a pleasure being with you today, Dr. Anjana, and I'm sure our participants had a lot to learn and take away from this session. Before we conclude with today's session, we would also want to thank the association members, GACIA, NASSCOM COE, LinkedIn Local, Talgrow, TLE, WICCI for supporting the HRAI events. To know more about these associations, request you all to kindly visit the links that are provided in the chat window. Thank you once again, dear speaker, and all our participants for joining us today. That's it from today's webinar, and we'll see you soon. Take care and bye for now.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.